We've dated for 6 years, but my boyfriend had treated me as nothing. Just when I was about to propose to him on the birthday party, I saw he pulling a young woman onto his lap and kissing her tenderly. She's a good woman, and let's break up. Okay. I nod numbly. Everyone knew that I was crazy in love with Hansel. My entire life revolved around him, and I would have preferred it if I could be with him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every time we said we broke up, I'd come crawling back to him, asking to get back together within 3 days or less. So when Hansel brought his new girlfriend Ingrid to our friend Calvin's party, everyone fell eerily silent for 5 whole seconds. I stopped peeling the clementine in my hands. Why's everyone so quiet? And why are you all looking at me? Mimi. Hansel didn't seem to care about anything as he guided Ingrid all the way to an empty spot on the couch with a hand around her waist. Happy birthday, Cal. He behaved blatantly, as though he wasn't doing anything wrong. Today was Calvin's birthday, and I didn't want to ruin his party. I stood up and headed to the door. Excuse me, I need to go to toilet. As I was about to shut the door, I heard the people in the room start to talk. Hans, didn't we tell you that Miranda was still here? Why did you still bring her here? It doesn't matter, Hansel said, finally removing his arm from Ingrid's waist. He then lit up a cigarette and started smoking. There was a grin in his eyes as he puffed the cigarette smoke into the air, seeming like a playboy who loved fooling around with people just for the fun of it. I ignored them, rushed to the restroom and couldn't help smiling pitifully at myself in the mirror. Hideous. I took a deep breath as I made my decision to ask him whether he would marry me or not. However, when I saw what was going on inside the room, I tightened my grip on the door handle and stopped. Hansel's lips were firmly pressed against Ingrid's lips, their saliva thoroughly wetting the thin piece of tissue that was preventing them from properly kissing. Everyone around them was laughing hard. Oh my god, Hans, you sure know how to rile things up? They're actually kissing. I mean, since everyone's so excited, you guys might as well just kiss. I felt my hand shaking. This was the man I'd loved for 6 years. Now I felt like nothing but a laughingstock. Guys, tone it down, someone suddenly whispered, gesturing at the door. Everyone immediately looked toward the entrance. Mimi, you're back. We're all just fooling around, you see. Don't mind. Miranda. Hansel interrupted the person trying to explain the situation and just looked at me with a calm expression on his face. Since you're here, let me straighten things out with you. Okay, I'm listening. It's tiring breaking up and making up with you for so many years. The feelings between us have long died. I tightened my fist, almost digging my nails into palm. However, I couldn't feel any pain. Ingie is a wonderful person, and I want to make things official with her. I nodded emotionless. Okay, even though we've broken up, we can still stay friends. You can still come to me if you run into any problems. I forced a smile on her face. It was a wan smile, but a smile nonetheless. Since we've broken up, it's better for us not to have any more contact with each other. That would only be fair to your new girlfriend. Hansel raised an eyebrow, looking a little shocked. Cal, I said, turning to look at the main character of the birthday party. Happy birthday to you again. Everyone, help yourselves to the plate of clementines I peeled on that table. Don't let it go to waste. Hansel hated every type of fruit except clementines. However, he was picky about it and would pick off every single vein on the fruit before eating it. For the past years, I had meticulously peeled and cleaned clementines just the way he liked them before presenting them to him. Now I realized maybe he only see me nothing more than a maid. When Hansel was in a good mood, he'd hug me and say, "My girlfriend is the best in the world. How could you be so good to me? Should I just marry you?" He'd known what I'd wanted all along, but he'd never given it to me. Hansel said, "I'll get Dan to drive you home. Don't worry about it, I've already called for a cab. Miranda, I'll see you to the door," Cal said. I declined gratefully, shaking her hands at him before turning to leave. Hans, look what you— I think Miranda's really mad this time. Hansel looked at the door that wasn't shut properly and smiled coldly. I say she'll be back looking for me in 3 hours. Okay, Hans wins. The whole world knows how crazy Miranda is for him. Why aren't there any women crazy over me like her? You? Get off, buddy. Ha ha ha. It was past midnight by the time I got back to the mansion. It took me half an hour to pack up all my belongings. I'd lived here for 3 years, but when I was about to leave, my belongings only fit in a tiny suitcase. I didn't take any of the designer clothing or luxurious jewelry which I'd never worn before. The only thing I wanted to take but couldn't was the wall of technical reference books. Luckily, I'd memorized all of their contents. My gaze swept over the dressing table. Then I pulled open a drawer. There was a check at the bottom of the drawer for $50 million. There was also a pile of documents under the check. The title on the first page read, Land Title Transfer, Plot 3-5, No 72, Easternia. Although the plot of land was in the suburbs, it was still worth about $20 million. Hansel had already signed both the check and the land transfer deed. He'd signed them the last time we'd broken up, and the documents had been in the drawer ever since then. He's sure I won't take the money because as soon as I do, our relationship is truly over. Suddenly I realized I'd managed to strike a bargain. Exchanging 6 years of my life for $70 million didn't seem like a bad deal after all. I tucked the 2 documents away in my bag. Even if I was out of love, at the very least, I wasn't out of money. I placed an order to a cleaning company, then set off for my best friend's flat. On the way, the cleaning company called. "Miss, are you sure that you don't want these things anymore?" "I don't. You can do whatever you want with them," I replied before hanging up. After dating for 6 years, my boyfriend got together with a university student and kissed her to my face. He said I was only his bootlicker and flung $70 million at me through a breakup fight. I took them and left without hesitation. He claimed that I would beg him for forgiveness within 3 hours, but I've decided to move on. "Hey, you lazy bum, it's time to get out of bed." I flipped over in bed and didn't even bother opening her eyes. "Shut up. I want to sleep a while longer." Winter Jefferson, my best friend, had already put on her makeup and was in the midst of choosing a purse to go with her outfit. "It's going to be 8 a.m. Don't you need to rush home to make breakfast for your most beloved Mr. Johnson?" I used to stay the night at Winter's place from time to time when I had breakup fight with Hansel, but I'd always leave before the crack of dawn to make cream of vegetable soup for Hansel, who was extremely prone to gastric problems. I know my behavior had always rendered Winter speechless. Was Hansel paralyzed, or was he too silly to order delivery on his own? Why did I still love him even when he made life difficult? In other words, he'd just been spoiled rotten by me. I shook her hand at Winter and said, "I'm not going back. We broke up." "Oh, so how long are you planning on staying broken up this time?" I didn't answer her. Eventually I woke up due to hunger. I had the sandwiches Winter had left and stared at the sun shining outside the windows. I couldn't remember the last time I'd slept in and woken up without an alarm. After breakfast, I changed her clothes and went straight to the bank. The first thing I had to do was cash out the check for $50 million. I wouldn't be able to rest until I had the money in my hands. Then, I went into the second bank. "I'd like to speak to your private banking account manager, please. I'd like to deposit $10 million, I asked the staff. Ultimately, the bank manager arranged an appointment with me, offering me a considerable annual interest rate. I even succeed in persuading him to increase the rate by a little bit. Finally, Miranda walked out of the last bank as the new owner of 3 black cards with $30 million worth of savings and $20 million worth of liquid cash funds. I guess this breakup was worth it after all. She'd become a millionaire overnight. That same night, at the lakeside mansion, Hansel was making a call. "Mr. Johnson, the bank confirmed that Ms. Sutton cashed out the $50 million in person today. The time is 12:05 p.m. this afternoon." Hansel ended the call as he looked out of the window coldly. "Miranda Sutton, what games do you think you're playing this time?" If she thought that doing this would make him want to get back together with her, then she was sorely mistaken. He'd never budge on any decisions he'd already made. "Cal, care for a drink tonight?" Half an hour later, Hansel pushed open the door to the private room. Calvin didn't move. He looked out the door behind Hansel. "What are you waiting there for? Where's Miranda?" Hansel's face immediately darkened. Calvin suddenly saw Hansel's thunderously black face, and the realization finally dawned on him. "Oh, Hans, has Miranda not returned yet?" It was long past 3 hours. Hansel spread his arms and shrugged. "Returned? You thought I was joking when I said I was breaking up with her." Then, he walked past Calvin and sat down on the couch. Calvin couldn't help scratching his head. Could it be that they were both finally serious about breaking up? However, a while later, he shook his head and thought that he was just overthinking things. Sure, Hansel could initiate the breakup any time and mean it, but as for Miranda, Calvin was sure that anyone would agree to a breakup, with the only exception being Miranda. Everyone in their circle knew that Hans, "Why are you alone?" Hansel's friend Zach Graham asked, purposely adding fuel to the fire. He crossed his arms over his chest, looking like he was about to laugh. "You bet that she'd be back in 3 hours, but it's already been a full day." Hansel grinned. "So I lost. What's the punishment?" Zach raised an eyebrow. "Let's change things up a bit. Drinking won't be your punishment this time." "What do you mean?" "Instead, call Mimi and say in your softest and gentlest voice, 'I'm sorry, I was wrong. I love you.'" Everyone immediately erupted in laughter. Meanwhile, Calvin grabbed Hansel's phone at once and dialed Miranda's number. After the initial beep, it said, "Sorry, the person you are calling is not available." Wait, did that mean he'd been blocked?